Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chasing a Murderer. Today, we are on part 171 of Life Beyond the Grave, the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell story. The timeline that I've been putting off for a bit is the last days that JJ Vallow is alive. So that is the weekend of September 2019, the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd. Very important dates in this case. Melanie Gibb and David Warwick is staying as Lori Vallow's guest at her townhome in Rexburg, Idaho. Melanie Gibb says she didn't see Tylee Ryan there during her visit. Neither did David Warwick. In fact, he learned that Tylee supposedly wanted to be independent and on her own, which might be a hint to the truth of why Tylee is no longer there. And some of the things Tylee may have been asking her mom for was to be independent because she did have a chunk of money. There's several possibilities as to why Tylee might not be there, but this is just one of those possibilities. David and Melanie say that Tylee was supposed to be attending BYU. This is strange, especially for Melanie, considering that Tylee barely finished high school and had received her GED. But what it seems like is Melanie knows a little bit more than she shares with us about what she knows about Tylee. More importantly, Melanie Gibb understood fully Lori's aggravation, dislike, her problems with both her children, and how they were obstacles to both Lori and Chad's holy mission. And we've had it beaten into our heads through media, through Lori's immediate family, how Lori was this amazing mom. But evidence and witnesses suggest that this is just a ruse. Lori's main discomfort were her children and how they were hindering her future. She was encumbered by their presence. Lori wanted solutions, and she wanted them now and forever so that she and Chad Daybell could alone continue this mission or new path in her life that she claimed was given to her by God. We learned that Lori had plans to write her own biography with the help of Chad. No doubt, this is about her long history of victimhood and directions from divine spirits. We learned later that she even gained a near-death experience that would put her into the near-death book club. Now remember, a lot of the books that Lori's reading are NDE books. Many of them were authored by some of her most admired people, which are Julie Rowe, Self-Visionary, Messenger of God, NDE. Spencer, Messenger of God, NDE. Chad Daybell, Messenger of God, NDE. For Lori, this was an opportunity of a lifetime, and she seemed to have always had an interest in writing a book of admiration, especially for other women. So here we are, telling the story of JJ Vallow's last weekend alive. Guys, I struggled so much because, I've never really finished this story. And so this timeline was most difficult for me. We may hop back and forth a little. Out of respect for JJ and for justice, I really didn't want to miss anything this weekend. So David Warwick and Melanie Gibb are staying at Lori's townhome. We know this. During their stay, Dave mentions that he saw Chad multiple times, but he didn't stay long during those visits. He claimed that he saw Chad at Lori's apartment maybe a half an hour to an hour. We know the reason for that most likely is he doesn't want to alert his wife, Tammy, of his secret rendezvous with his goddess lover. So who was there that weekend? When you had Alex Cox, occasionally Chad Daybell, you had Lori Vallow, Melanie Gibb, and David Warwick. They said that they did not see Tylee, but they did see JJ. Over the course of that weekend, the 21st and the 22nd, David Warwick said that Lori and Chad both spoke with him with the fact that he was one of them. And one of them who? Well, the chosen for the Church of the Firstborn and the 144,000 who are preparing for Christ's return to earth and his rule here on earth.
And then he said he and Lori were going to be together. What did that mean?
That they were going to get married and they were going to go do their calling.
Okay. And did you know what their calling was?
That's what I learned. They were going to gather the 144,000.
And they were going to do it together.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any response to this?
That's where I just said that because he felt he was kind of saying that I was one of them. And that's why he wanted me up there. And that's when I said, well, that would be a call from God and through his prophet.
Okay. And what was his reaction when you said it should come through the prophet? It's the prophet of the church, right?
Yeah. I can't remember all the details, but it was clear, kind of like that it was a separate calling. Because it was the Church of the Firstborn, which is going to be coming out of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so that was his position, and he had his authority under John the Beloved, if I remember right.
Well, David Warwick was told this back in August of 2019. This is something that wasn't new to him. And again, in September during his visit. So he says that he did not believe that, yet he was there. According to David Warwick, his reasoning for being there was he was moving his son to Idaho and then also to attend an event.
Yes.
And were you in Idaho for any other reason at that point?
We had just moved my son up to Pocatello, Idaho, so I was coming up to see them, and I was coming up for the Book of Mormon Evidence Conference.
Also, Melanie and Lori wanted to make a podcast with David Warwick, so that's a few of the reasons he gave that he come to Idaho that weekend. As they talked about the 144,000 and the plans for the future, he learns that people like Zelima have these incredible powers. He is sitting alongside of his girlfriend Melanie Gibb as they talk about the 144,000 and their plans for the future. But he said, and well, depending on which trial you listen to, at times, Chad was leading the way on that conversation, and then others, it was Lori. Most times, they would blame Chad, but attorneys would ask, did you hear it directly from Chad's mouth? And they would say no. They always heard the majority, at least 98%, from Lori.
You indicated that he started talking about beliefs in the 144,000, right? That's what you said. Who was present during this conversation?
Melanie and Lori.
Okay. Did Lori participate in the conversation at all about those issues?
Not that I can recall. He seemed to lead the way on that.
Okay. And did you, what was your response to Chad's, sort of concepts?
I just said, if the Lord's gathering his 144,000, I believe that would happen through his prophet. And then, as far as the Satan having power to push people out of the bodies, I said, we're taught differently in that. That can't happen because he's not given that kind of power.
So many people have wondered how the heck did Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow and Charles Vallow, how did their spirits get pushed out of their body if they didn't die in order for demons to take over? Well, David Warwick gives you a hint here, saying that they believe that Satan has the capability to push their spirits out of their body. Let's listen to a clip from David Warwick's testifying at Chad Daybell's trial.
Lori Vallow's house in Chandler, Arizona.
And when did that happen?
August of 2019.
What was your occasion for being at that meeting?
Lori, I was with Melanie and we were doing a couple firesides in Arizona. And Lori called when we were coming back down from the northern Arizona and said, "Hey, we got some friends here. We'd like you." They wanted her to bring me over to meet me. So they said they were just having like a luncheon. She had prepared food and just asked us to come and stop by.
Who do you recall being at that luncheon or that meeting at Lori's house?
Chad, Lori, Melanie Boudreaux, I think was her name. Alex Cox, Zilima, and then there was a lady there named Julie.
Again, David tells them, as they talk about the 144,000 once more, that they do not have the authority to do so, that this is the authority of the LDS prophet, President Russell Nelson at the time.
And that the gathering of 144,000, that would be done by the prophet or somebody called under his authority.
Would it be fair to say that you'd explain to them that you weren't really accepting these beliefs?
Yeah.
Now, during this weekend, at any time, did you observe anything about Chad and Lori's interaction with each other that gave you any clues about the relationship?
They were more affectionate.
In what regard?
He walked up behind her and put his arms around her.
Anything else?
I think there was a kiss on the cheek. There was some head rubbing.
Anything about that aspect of their relationship that bothered you that weekend?
Yes.
What was it that bothered you?
That he was still married to Tammy.
Did you ever confront him about that?
Yes.
What did you say to him?
I just asked him about his marriage to Tammy. If she was, was she happy? Was he happy with her? Was she a good wife? Was she a good mother?
How did he respond?
He said, yes, she was very good. And he said that she was good.
Anything else in that conversation specifically?
So David is the only one kind of asking questions. The last person that did that was Serena, and she's no longer in the group. But David Warwick has these concerns for Tammy. How does Tammy feel that her husband's coming over to Lori's townhome and they're holding hands and being affectionate? That must be a very awkward situation for certain people. Didn't seem to be awkward for Melanie Gibb, but for David, it did seem uncomfortable. David, trying to understand the situation, asked Chad, "How do you feel about Tammy? Is she a good wife?" One thing you won't hear from Chad, not even from his books, from way back 2015 or even before, any kind of emotional connection, appreciation, or love for his wife, Tammy. It was like he had just settled. She had his children, and she was basically just a baby-making machine. But he said Tammy was a good wife. Of course, she was a good wife. She was the one keeping the family afloat all them years in every aspect. In case you've forgotten, she was the breadwinner. She was the one that cared for and took care of the children. She made the dinners. She was the person that kept that family together. And as they all sat in that townhome, Tylee Ryan missing, Charles Vallow's dead, calling JJ a zombie. Now they talk about Tammy and the fact that Lori and Chad claim that they're going to get married. Lori would be his next wife, but he's not divorced.
Anything anything else in that conversation specifically?
Well, it just, they said that Lori was going to be his next wife. They'd been married before, and they're going to fulfill this mission together, and that he had a dream that Tammy was going to be passing by the time he was 50 or 51.
This is very familiar to what he said when he had his relationship with Julie Rowe. But now Lori Vallow is here. And Lori is the type of person that she doesn't just talk. She makes things happen. Who made JJ a zombie? Who is pushing for these deaths to happen? Well, Lori's getting impatient with Chad because Charles is gone. Tammy's still here. We have heard Melanie give in interviews. We've heard her in her testimony and her ideas, and her brain seems to swap at times or seem very unsure. See, Melanie Gibb knew about the car accident that Charles and JJ were supposed to get in. She knew that Lori was not happy with JJ, but she's claimed that JJ became a zombie a day before she arrived.
What did she tell you?
She told me that the day before I arrived that he became dark.
So previously she'd told you Tylee was dark.
Correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
And now JJ was dark.
Correct.
Did you observe JJ that weekend?
Yes.
Did you observe any behaviors that caused you concern?
No.
Do you recall her telling you why she believed he was dark?
Either Chad told her or she figured it out herself. I'm thinking it was Chad, but I'm not remembering.
And Chad was present at times that weekend,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Was he present when there was talk of JJ being dark?
It's possible.
This is where prosecution really shocked me. I understand they were trying to get a conviction with Chad, but they were really trying to make something that possibly wasn't true. The narrative was to make Lori Vallow more of a victim to Chad than Chad a victim to Lori. Melanie never heard Chad talk about zombies to her. Every time you hear her testify, it comes from Lori. And though they try to say, "Did you hear it from Chad?" she stumbles. She pauses. She says words like, "It's possible." Well, David was beside Melanie each and every time prosecutors questioned Melanie about the weekend and their conversations with Chad and Lori. And as you can see, they're very contradicting. Is it possible that at the start, Melanie Gibb didn't want to see Lori's side, or was she still trying to take up for her because maybe she was scared? And now, as time's gone on, she's become more comfortable with telling the truth because she knows much more, and maybe one day she'll be confident enough to share that truth. Melanie Gibb said she was also there Thursday when she arrived, and JJ was having a few bad days. She witnessed Chad taking JJ upstairs to calm him down, in quotes. And when he returns back downstairs, he has a mark on his neck. So this incident most likely happened either on Friday or Saturday. What's strange about this situation is the fact that Chad didn't have very many interactions with JJ, except for that moment, at least Melanie Gibb can recollect. Now here's Melanie Gibb's version of Chad and David speaking about Tammy.
And David was asking him questions about Tammy, and Chad said, "Please don't share this with anybody in my relationship with Lori." And so we asked David asked questions about the relationship he had with Tammy.
What did you hear Chad say about Tammy?
That she was a good wife, I believe. I'm not recalling right now what he said.
Do you recall him ever mentioning that he was going to divorce her?
Never heard that.
Ever hear him talk about getting separated?
No.
So that question was very, very important that prosecutors brought up, is the fact that they don't, even though Chad says that he and Lori's going to get married, they got this mission, there's no mention that he's going to divorce Tammy. Just a mention that she's supposed to mysteriously now pass away. Now, we talked about this a long time ago when I first covered this story about these dates that JJ disappears. And the fact that it's so close to September 22nd, which is a very iconic and religious date, at least for the LDS. It's the date that Joseph Smith seen Moroni. Now, I'm going to play this testimony by Melanie Gibb, and you're going to get a puzzle piece.
Did Lori ever talk to you about September 22nd having any kind of special meaning to her?
Yes.
What did she tell you about that?
She told me that it was an anniversary for her of when she saw Moroni in the temple.
Do you recall the last time you saw JJ?
It was the Sunday night, the 22nd.
So, on September 21st, 1823, Moroni appeared with Joseph Smith in his bedroom. On September 22nd, 1823, Smith tried to take the plates from the hill, but Moroni stopped him. Some members of the LDS Church celebrate Mormon Day on September 21st or 22nd. Also, they do or they publish testimonials from church leaders for the anniversary of Moroni's first visit. 1825, September 22nd, was Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. In 1827, when Moroni finally delivered the plates to Joseph Smith, this date coincided exactly with Rosh Hashanah, also known as the Feast of the Trumpets. And I hope I didn't butcher that too badly. For many of us, this date is very important as to why they chose this day to get rid of JJ. I'm going to pause here so that I can take these in smaller steps. It's easier for me. And I will continue to work on this timeline, and we will get into some very shocking information next video. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.